So your basic services involves electricity. It's any service that relates to the quality of life of an individual or of an entire community. These includes electricity, water provision, sewage collection, refuge collection. So these are all basic services. But what's important to remember that the basket of basic services is not an exhaustive list. In other words, it's not a complete list. It can expand over time. No? That's very important. So as you know, in South Africa, we have 3 spheres of government. So it's national, provincial, and local. Now, when it comes to basic services, the primary sphere of government responsible for its implementation is local government. So at the moment, we have 257 municipalities in South Africa. So they are all responsible for giving effect to the basic services in South Africa. This depends whether a municipality or whether an individual is entitled to a basic services, and it depends on the extent to which that basic service overlaps or links with a right. For example, municipalities is responsible as a function for providing water to end users. That's a constitutional function given to municipalities. As you know, in the Constitution, you also have a right to water, right? Now, to that extent, you have the right to water in the Constitution and the constitutional duty to provide water, which is a local government function, which makes local government primarily responsible for this rights realization. There are many other rights which overlaps with the function of local government. So whether or not the community approach or wants to assert their right against a sphere of government, it's important to remember one must identify whether the sphere is responsible, what is the function of the sphere, and to what extent does that function link with the right in question. So that's important to remember. So basically, obviously, most of the services that a municipality can cut is when they are entitled to receive revenue or funds in respect of that service, right? So one of that function is electricity. So as you know, municipalities are responsible for providing electricity to end users, right? So they will buy electricity from Eskom, and their responsibility is then in turn to sell that to end users, which is us, the community. If you as an end user don't pay for your electricity, then there's a legal right. In fact, municipalities, as one of the remedies, they can cut your electricity supply. But very important for community members to note is that municipality cannot just cut your electricity anytime. They need to follow certain procedures, basically informing you as an end user that you are in arrears, right? They need to put you in default, give you an opportunity to pay the arrear amount. If you fail, then they can cut your electricity supply or your water supply as well. There are a number of remedies available to communities, both legal and both internal remedies available to them if the municipality fails to deliver on their basic services delivery mandate. One, as a last resort, they can approach a court, right? Whereby if the municipality fails to deliver a service, they can obtain a structural interdict, forcing the municipality to render the service, right? And this is common, happens all the time. So normally the court will first make a finding to say that the municipality indeed have failed to deliver the services, and by that have violated the Constitution. And then as a remedy, the court will then instruct the municipality, you need to put a program in place to show and to remedy the defect, right? The right, and to give effect to the right. So that's the one, the structural. There's also other forms that they can take, internal remedies. So let's say they cut your electricity supply. So your first point is not to run to court and to challenge the decision in court. First point of departure would be approach the municipality, make representations, explain to the municipality why are you unable to pay. If you are unhappy with your billing account, you don't think that the amount that you owe the municipality reflects the correct value, then you can also make representation in that regard. So most municipalities will have internal units that deals with complaints. So it's very important that you first exhaust all these internal remedies. And for these type of internal procedures, you don't need a lawyer. So you don't need to spend money on lawyers. So I would suggest that community members, those that are affected by where your electricity supply has been cut or terminated, that you first approach the municipality. And the municipalities do allow for one to enter into financial arrangements where you pay a certain amount every month, and then they will restore your electricity supply or your water supply. So communities, remember, very important that basic services, as I explained, is the primary responsibility of municipalities. So they must render the service. But as you know, throughout the country, there's a number of municipalities that are collapsing. They don't have financial resources, they don't have money to render these basic services. Now the next question is, can the community take the services and render it themselves to the community? Let's say your civic organization, the Ratepayers Association, can they take over a municipal function and render it to the community? The answer to this is yes. However, the Rates Association, for example, they need to approach the court, right, by first and foremost finding that the municipality are unable to render the services, and then in the alternative, they can then ask the court that the court should give the function to them temporarily. It's not permanent. So if the ratepayers has been given the function, remember, then the court will supervise how they are performing that function. This is to prevent the abuse of whereby ratepayers take the law into their own hands. So this is to prevent the issue of self-help, right? So what's very important is it must be court sanctioned, right? And that's what our courts have explained in a number of court cases. The first point of departure would be, normally most municipalities, they will have internal ombuds units, right? The ombudsman. So if you're unhappy with the services that has been rendered, or you're unhappy with how an official conducted him or herself in rendering a particular service, then you can report it to the ombudsman, which is normally internal within the municipality. Then there's also other external entities, your Chapter 9 institutions like the Public Protector, the South African Human Rights Commission. These are all entities that has been set up to assist you with rights violations or in respect of local government. But what's important also to remember, as a last resort, there's always an option available to parties approaching the courts. You will get some lawyers that specialize in this area that will do it free of charge on a pro bono basis. There's also certain human rights or legal clinics in South Africa that deals with assisting communities when it comes to right violations with regards to the Constitution. So before communities approach courts or try to seek a legal remedy in court, there's various options available to them. However, again, in the context of South Africa, I must say when it comes to local government, there's not a lot of practitioners that focus on this area. So, but there is help out there.